Alright, grade 5s, this is just me giving you your lesson on your mind map. I have started it and I've also done it by hand just to show you that you do not need to print everything off the computer. Okay, I'm also struggling with my printing, so I'm trying to handwrite as much as I can. So I've copied it off my PDF that I placed online for you, and you can see we've got angles and lines. Okay, so over here for point, all right, a point, okay, is an exact position. Okay, so it can be found on a line, and it is in the exact position that you find in maths. All right, and so how we label our points is we normally use letters, and they're normally capital letters, big capital letters that we use. So I've called this point point A. Okay, so it's quite simple. Remember, what I'm doing here is I'm writing very simple notes. In mind maps, we like to keep things very simple. We only write the absolute essential things down. We try and make sure that there isn't too much clutter so that our brains can take in everything that we see on our piece of paper. Right, we then have line segments, and I've got quite a fun way of remembering line segment. So I've drawn my line for you. I've drawn it by freehand just because I'm trying to record here at the same time. You can make sure you do it in pencil, and it must be with your ruler, and it must be nice and neat. Okay, now a line segment has got a big S in it, line segment. Okay, and how I remember this is the S stands for start and for stop. All right, so there's my S and my S, start and stop, which means that a line segment starts and it stops. Okay, so in other words, it's got two end points to it. All right, so it's got a starting point and it's got a very definite stopping point. And that's how I remember it with the S. S stands for start and stop. Okay. The line is quite an easy one. A line basically just goes on in both directions. So that's your line, and you can see I've put a little arrow at the end of each of the line here in both directions to show that this line is just going to keep going in opposite directions. Right, we then have the ray. Now the ray, I think in my mind, how can I remember this? And I think of the sun, and I think that the sun has got sun rays. That's how I remember or think about the sun. So that's why I've done a little sun on your memo, if you have a look at the memo that I've done for you. Okay, and what I've done here is I've actually drawn the sun's rays coming off the sun. That's how we used to draw the sun when we drew it in grade 1 or 2. Okay, and basically a ray has got one end point. There it is there. I've drawn it for you. And then the other side keeps on going on forever and ever and ever. Just like the sun's rays keep going on and on and on. Okay? And so a ray has got one end point. And then it's got, I'm going to write it here for you, one end point and one that goes on. Okay, right, parallel lines are fairly easy. I know you did this in grade 4. And parallel lines are lines that never are going to cross. They're going to remain the same distance apart, and they both keep going on in exactly, well, in opposite directions, but they're never going to cross. Okay, they're never going to intersect. And the way that we show parallel lines is we do like a little arrow on the line to indicate that those lines are parallel. Right, and then we've got perpendicular. And perpendicular is basically an angle that is formed at a 90 degrees angle. So here you've got your straight lines. Sorry, this is a little bit difficult for me to do with one hand. And okay, so there's my one line that is intersecting another line, and it intersects it at a right angle. And how do we show a right angle? With a little square box. Okay, that's your perpendicular lines. And then the last types of lines that we have are called intersecting lines. And these, here's my one line. Remember, lines go on in opposite directions. They keep going on. And I can draw another line there. And they are lines that intersect each other. And they're intersecting each other at that point right there. And I can even label that point if I want and call it point A. And those lines are intersecting. And let's call these lines something as well. Let's call this line A, B. And we can call this line over here C, D. So line AB is intersecting line CD. And let's rather call this point, let's call it point E, just to make it different. Let's call it point E. Okay, so that is the answers for our lines.